Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome
the
to our car.
name. No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Yeah.
Right along with us.
All right, let's get rolling. Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Two Guys, One Car podcast. Today we are doing the post-Vietnam. So I went to Vietnam about a month ago now for 2 weeks and I had an amazing time. We did a pre-episode. If you haven't listened to that, go check that out. And today we're just going to talk about my experience. So
firstly, how long has it been since you've been back?
I got back on the 27th. Oh, so literally pretty
4
much
weeks.
a month. Yeah, basically 4 weeks to the dot.
Yeah. And how are you feeling now after 4 weeks?
I'm feeling back into the rhythm and routine of things. I've just been so busy the past 4 weeks. So it really does feel like a lifetime ago that I went to Vietnam, which is weird because it was 4 weeks ago.
And how would you compare that to you when you just got back and got straight back into the week?
When I first got back, I actually had diarrhea for like 3-4 days, a stomach bug. I don't know what I got it from, whether it was food or just like a lot of travel or just consistently eating a diet filled with like a lot of refined carbs and oils. So I just kind of endured that, and that was sort of my welcome back to Australia present.
How long did that go for? Like 3 days?
Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4 days. I had like really bad stomach cramps and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back into it was fine. It's always the case of, you know, as soon as you're home, you're like, damn, I want to be back there. And when you're there, you're like, home would be nice. It's kind of bittersweet. Grass is always greener. But yeah, it was a pretty easy transition.
Yeah. Well, the biggest talking point out of us in the pre-one was talking about how you hadn't been overseas for like 10 plus years and you'd obviously never been overseas by yourself and traveled. Yes, you were with other people, but in terms of like not with your parents, not with the shelter network. So how was that for you?
It was interesting. I was fine because obviously I was with two friends, Pat and Luke. We weren't with Luke for the whole time, but I was pretty much shoulder to shoulder with Pat for the 2 weeks. However, I had confidence from the trips that I've done in Australia, like by myself or without sort of parents guiding me. So like doing the Hump 1000, doing the Larapinta, our 10-day trip up north, all that sort of stuff, like gave me that sense of independence and confidence in myself to figure out situations and be okay. When you add the culture in, it was definitely another element.
I was about to say that's probably the biggest thing out of it, right? Is this the first time you'd experienced the culture with, number one, by yourself without your parents, and two, with an adult brain, like a more self-established brain of like, you're not being told where to go next or what to do. And the way, if you listen to the pre-one, we talked about how you guys had no plan. So the fact that you went in like that, I mean, you would have taken a lot out of that, I assume.
Yeah, it was really liberating, as simple as that sounds, to be over there and not have anyone tell me where I have to be or what I need to do, knowing that I could just explore a country and do what I want to do. It was really, really nice. It was kind of a big hit, like witnessing the poverty instantly was quite overwhelming. Not overwhelming, it was just, you just feel bad and grateful. Like you feel bad for them that's the standard of life, and then you feel grateful for everything we have in Australia. And I know they don't want sympathy, but like it's hard not to feel that way when we flew in, we're walking down the street, cross the road, and I see a paraplegic in a wheelchair lying on the floor using his wheelchair as a pillow because he's homeless, wearing no top, just a pair of pants. Like that's his reality. This guy clearly is not going to be able to get a job. Obviously there's not like any government project set up to help him.
I was going to say, all of us in Australia, Medicare, there's no such thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, seeing that was just quite, I guess it was overwhelming now that I really think about it. And just brought so much gratitude to me because I was in a country I wanted to be in because I have the money to go there. Like what more could I possibly ask for? So yeah, the poverty was real and is real.
And it's one of those things where you'd obviously thought about it beforehand. I mean, you have the travel over there, like you have just your thoughts beforehand and your expectations going there. and it's something you thought about, but when you actually get there, it'll just be so different actually experiencing it. Like, this is now your world for however long, and just seeing. But the fact that you're getting out of that is like, that'd be almost like a guilty feeling. I don't know, just for someone who hasn't like done anything like that, I would just be thinking probably feel really guilty, just because I know that like, yes, I'm here and I could help someone now, but ultimately I'm going back. Did you feel ever guilty at all while you were there?
No, not for that stuff. I just, like, the way I see it is, who am I to say that my quality of life's better? Yes, I can assume it's better based off what I know and what I've experienced, but maybe that guy had more happiness than I've ever had in my entire life.
That's a great point.
Who
Because
knows?
we're predicating that off like, well, they don't have freaking a bed, they don't have a PlayStation, they don't have XYZ. That are probably just luxuries. It's like, they may actually have the core things like love, family, friendships. They may have all those things.
Exactly. All I saw was like a slither of most people's lives, and that's all we really see of most people's lives. So it's hard to make a judgment on that, but at least from what I know and what I experience here in Australia to what I experienced there, like, life quality here is just so much better. That being said though, the people there are so nice. Like, I don't know, most people here just don't speak to each other. And yes, given I'm traveling, so I'm looking for conversation, I'm trying to engage, whereas here I might be on autopilot a bit more. But I just found the overall like sense that everyone was so lovely over there. Really, really nice people.
That's so cool. Yeah, getting outside of Oz sometimes, I feel like I hear that a lot about, not to shit on the UK, but I feel like I hear that a lot about the UK, is they're sort of like us in, we don't really, I feel like generally Australia is very like, g'day, how you going? But when we're like, I don't know, when you're walking the street, like no one ever says hi to each other. And I think a lot of people say in America they do. Like, it's just like, hey, how you going? Like, just everyone all the time, which is so different. I wonder why we don't have that.
Yeah, it is super interesting. I think for the most part, people just run on autopilot. They know the roads they're driving, they know the job they're going to. Their minds just aren't present. I saw a really beautiful example of that. I think it was last year actually. I was at a set of traffic lights and I saw 5 or 6 people crossing the road. At the crossing, there was like a bunch of school kids, a couple of businessmen, and a dad like walking his daughter across. And literally every single adult and all the teens in high school, their faces were just blank, like their minds were somewhere else. They had headphones on. You could just tell they weren't present in the moment. And then this little girl skips across the crossing, biggest smile on her face, just so present and so joyful. And I wrote about that and like labeled it like the crossings of joy. And it's really just, when you're present, that's when you can find joy in the present moment. Like, it's almost like you're not looking in the right spot. Don't look in the future for joy, because the future isn't there yet. Like, don't look in the past, because past is gone. Like, seek joy in the present, because that's where you're going to find it. And that's what that girl was doing. So
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we're just not living in this moment.
That kind of makes me think about your photography and stuff, and you showed me some photos of what it was like over there. So how was like capturing that environment and that culture and the experiences you had over there?
Yeah, that was really fun. It was great because I find like taking photos forces you to slow down and almost try to like construct a moment or a story and capture that moment and those feelings associated with that moment. You can just like hold a camera up and take. But yeah, when you really, really slow down, actually think about what it is you're taking a photo of, you just see so much more. So I'm always grateful to like have my camera with me and take photos. And it's just finding the balance between taking photos, but when you're traveling with a group, like you don't want to slow the group up. So we were doing this 4-day like motorbike ride in the Haijiang province, called the Haijiang Loop, very famous. And like there were so many parts where I'd want to pull over and get a photo or whatever, but then I didn't want the boys to be waiting for me. So it's just wrestling with that. And I found as the time went on, I got better at navigating that. But earlier on, I was either like taking like too many photos almost and felt like I was holding them up. So I felt guilt in that sense. Or I was just not taking enough. And then I'm like, dude, you're never going to be here again. Possibly. Like,
so weird.
Take the photo. So yeah, but no, I really loved taking photos.
Yeah. And that was, again, like you were overseas for the first time. It's the first time you took photos in such a different environment Was it the same process you usually go through in terms of like, you feel out in the environment and you're like, oh, this is nice. Like you've taken a lot of photography of like, obviously just like scenery and like shit like
hiking,
that.
landscape stuff.
Was it the same sort of feeling you have when you hike, or was it a different feeling? Or
I would say it was a bit different. I've found that like trying to capture people is really hard, and like I'm no photographer, but people are always moving like rapidly as well. So it's rare that you can get a photo of someone like holding the emotion that you want them to be holding, because usually like they're smiling and then they stopped or they're turned or whatever. So yeah, being a fly on the wall and trying to capture people is an interesting challenge. But I would say a similar process for the most part. You're just kind of getting a feel for your environment and then looking around and being like, that's a really beautiful piece of art, or like this scene looks really nice, I want to capture that.
Speaking of like people, so I'm assuming you would have met like a lot of Vietnamese people, of course, like you stayed in some people's houses, but before we get into like the Vietnamese people you sort of met, who were some people you met who were also travelers?
Yeah.
That you took something from?
So that was awesome. Like the amount of people you meet is wild. I met this guy, Andre, and he was really cool. We had a couple of conversations. He actually lives in Sydney, but basically there's a lot of people that like stay in hostels, like Westerners, people traveling, and it's almost like the lads on tour culture, just like partying, getting smashed at the hostel, trying to find someone to hook up with, and I just not really about that stuff. If you are, that's chill, you can do what you want, but I wasn't about that. So this one night I like went on a walk and down the street, didn't know where I was going, was by myself, and I ended up bumping into Andre, this guy. He was just sitting at this like food cart eating chicken feet, and we just sat and spoke for like 2 hours, and like having that conversation with him was really, really beautiful. I'm super grateful I met him, learned a lot from him. The other biggest highlight was Sebastian. So he's a South African guy.
Dude, Sebastian's affected all of us.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, no, fully.
Yeah.
He has, and I'll explain why. But like, if doppelgangers exist in not look-alike, but just if there is another human being that is exactly like me, like Sebastian is the guy. Just so many similarities, man. Like loves the UFC, triathlon, running, like hiking, just so similar.
That's so whack.
Loves Goggins, Haynes, Nims. Wild.
Shit.
Wild. Like grew up on the other side of the world, yet we're so similar, which is really cool.
From certificate?
Yeah. So Seb had a massive impact on me. We've actually planned to hike Mount Kilimanjaro next year with him, which would be awesome. But something the reason he's impacted us is he did this thing with his brother and his friend, and it basically started off as like a no-fap for 3 months. And it was pretty much, they got together to hold each other accountable for that. And they got through it and loved it and found it like really beneficial, holding each other accountable. So they started an accountability group. And basically they meet once a month and just like tell each other what they want to be held accountable for, talk about where they're going, where their slip-ups are, etc. And Pat and I, like once Seb told us this, I was like, man, that's so awesome. Like that's such a cool thing. I want to implement that like back in Australia with my mates. So we had, I think it was like 6 or 7 of us got together like a couple of weeks ago for our first like accountability, vulnerability group. Basically it's just a space to be purposeful and intent, because when you get together with friends, it's so easy to just like shit talk and jibber jabber and whatever. And that's great. It's a good thing. That's why we have friends. But at the same time, sometimes it's good to just like be purposeful and intent. And it's not sitting down this really formal, structured thing. It's just getting together with like, hey, we want to get from A to B. So let's like start moving towards B. Otherwise, we're just going to stay at A all day. So we got together and did that. And I found it really beneficial. I know everyone, all the boys like found it super beneficial. And like, how did you find it?
Dude, that was so sick. I think we actually talked about this on a pod already, but like it's obviously been some time since. I found it so good. Like one of my things was like just making sure my diet's a lot cleaner, and more so for performance rather than anything, because I was like finding it was really affecting like my sleep, like, you know, not eating 90 minutes before bed, or like choosing the cheap. I was putting financial decisions ahead of my health, which is, when you say that, it's like, whoa, that's crazy. Health should be your number one priority. But like, it's not that easy to just say. So for me, it was almost just switching those priorities around to make sure that health was above financial. It's like, if I'm going to work for money, it's like, put that money into my health first, and whatever I have left is like other stuff. You know what I mean? Like that should be the priority. And like, of course, like you have to learn lessons somehow, right? But yeah, it was just like always finding the cheapest option for food, and like whatever's the easiest route around the financial decision. So I'd like said, look, no refined carbs, no food 90 minutes before bed, for like, just stick to it for 1 week. And that's what I found the accountability thing great for, like the group, is that you could say that to yourself and you'd be like, okay, no more refined carbs, no more food 90 minutes before bed forever. It's like, the group helped me realize it's like, just do it for a week and then get lessons out of that and take them forward. It's not like you have to be like, because in your own head, you tell yourself, I want to make a change. And then you go to make a change and it's like, but you can't stick to it. It's so difficult to stick to it.
Yeah. And there's actual accountability when you do it with friends. So when you do it with yourself, there might be that initial sense of guilt or shame, but as you go on, that becomes a habit, and then all that guilt and shame is gone. So by doing it with your friends, it's like, okay, not only am I going to feel the shame, but I need to say, it's like, there's a bit of bread in front of you. If I'm going to eat this piece of bread, there'll be that immediate guilt. But then there's also, in 3 weeks from now, I need to stand up in front of 6 other guys who are all going to tell me like how good they've done the past month. And then I need to tell them that I ate that piece of bread, or I ate whatever it was that I didn't want to eat.
But like, and some people probably like the splashback to that is probably like, oh, that's just ego. It's not. It's accountability. There's such a difference. You're not doing it out of ego. It's like, you're doing it for yourself, and it does just keep you, it helps you keep accountable. It just holds you on track. It keeps the train on the train tracks. Because at the end of the day, like, you get that shame when you haven't done it, and you tell the group, and like, you deal with that shame. So it's not for ego. It's like, it's just avoiding that shame you're going to deal with by yourself when you don't actually do it. But yeah, like, I found that so beneficial, and like, I've taken lessons from that going forward, and habits that I've like built from that. Making better decisions in terms of like, when I go to like impromptu eat something, it's just like, what, like, am I making a health decision or a financial decision? Because like, I know how to eat healthy and I know exactly what to do. And for some people, they might not, because they haven't prepped before, they've eaten shit their whole life, and that's how they've been brought up. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I haven't, so I know exactly how to eat healthy. It's like, it's a matter of implementing that. And it definitely helped my performance, like 100%, like in terms of like training for the marathon. It like, no doubt helped me like get up like that week, and like, it was so good, like so productive.
It's just momentum, because you're making good decisions that are leading to where you want to be. Also, I have to give credit to Ollie and Owen. So they're the other 2 guys we met, 2 British guys, and we were with them for most of the trip. We were kind of like a day behind them, but we ended up catching up to them and spending the rest of the trip with them. And they were just such good guys, like such good banter, such good lads. And we just had so much fun with them. So I'm super grateful that we met them. And also Julie, she was this French girl that we met, and we were with her for 2 days, I think it was. And she was just cool, like different perspective on life. Just an interesting person. So grateful that we met her as well. And there were plenty of other people that like you cross paths with. Joseph, he was a German guy. We were with him for quite a while. He was so much fun, so nice, like such a genuine person. So yeah, so many people that I'm grateful that we met.
And is there any Vietnamese people you met along the way who'd want to like mention for what they gave to you on the trip?
Yeah, so Anne was the first person. I met her at the Central Backpackers Hostel in Phong Nha. And like, when I was checking in, she's like, how are you going? I'm like, good, thank you, how are you? And she just looked at me stunned, like, good, thank you. Like, no one's ever asked me that. And I was like, wait, what?
What? Wait, was she Vietnamese?
Yeah. Like, receptionist at this hostel.
No one's ever asked her back, are you okay?
Like, how are you going? Yeah.
Australian. Dude, because we all say, how are you? I'm good, thanks, how are you?
So yeah, she was blown away. And then I was like, I'll go one step further. Like, what's been the best part of your day?
And she's like, whoa, yeah. Like losing her mind.
Yeah, we had a really cool conversation, and it just gave me insight into like, these people are so nice and so giving. Yeah, like they get nothing in terms of conversation. Like, and fair enough, I'm not saying as a backpacker you need to talk to the receptionist and have a conversation, but like, she was so loving and like hospitable. Yet, yeah, she just like, there was never a reason to be, almost like she didn't have to be super nice to me, but she just was, because that's who she is and that's her job, and she does it well. So yeah, she was cool. And then I forget the name of this guy we met, but we stayed in his house at a homestay, and he was just so awesome. Like him and his wife and his son Hugo, like lovely family, cooked great food, had a great night with them, and their house is beautiful in Dong Van, this town up in Haijiang. So yeah, there were quite a few people that we met that were awesome. But
can you speak to any like moments of like Vietnamese hospitality that you really appreciated? Like maybe touches that you wouldn't have thought of, like from our culture that we don't usually do, or...
Yeah, no, it was just cool how like a lot of them take a lot of pride in their country and their culture and the food, which like comes under the culture. But it's cool to just see people be proud of like where they come from. I think that is a nice touch, I would have to say. Just seeing people be proud of the country they live in.
That's awesome. And to the big question, the food. How was the food?
The food was great. It's not sustainable for a long period of time.
Says your gut from when you came back.
As I said, like a lot of it is refined carbs, like noodles, rice, just smothered in oil. They serve fish oil with like absolutely every dish. Yeah. Just a little bowl of fish oil and everyone dips it in. So much sugar as well. All their coffees. Oh,
coconut coffee.
Coconut
Give
and
it a
egg
shout
coffee.
out.
Like whoever you are around the world, if you are a coffee drinker, you have to have coconut and egg coffee, like 2 separate coffees, a coconut coffee and an egg coffee. They are amazing.
What's so good about it?
So there's minimal ingredients in each. The coconut coffee is condensed milk, coconut cream, coffee and shaved ice, just blended. And
it's like a slushy
it's
type
like a
thing.
frappe slushy type thing. So naughty. It is so good.
Is it like espresso coffee or you don't know?
I don't know. It's like a shot of coffee.
Okay, yeah.
It's not like a powdered coffee or anything. They're really, really nice. And then the egg coffee is you get egg yolk and condensed milk and whip it until it becomes like a light, foamy, creamy substance. And then just put that on top of a shot of coffee, and then the user can eat it or mix it and then have it. And it's so good.
Have you made any of that since you've come back?
No, so when I got back...
Good point. Go on.
Yeah. So I literally had at least 1 coffee a day, if not sometimes 3 coffees a day over there. And their coffee is so highly caffeinated. There was one night, I think, I had one early arvo, and I just stayed up till 11, 12 o'clock at night, just fine. Not tired at all. I'm like, oh no, this is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I got back, I was like, all right, I'm clearly addicted to caffeine and coffee. I need to stop this. So I'm doing a month with no coffee. I had one the second day I was back, just wanted one, felt really like jet lagged and tired, even though it's a 3-hour difference. But had that, and then I haven't had one since. So in 3 days, it's a month since I've had a coffee, but I'm still not going to have one, just purely for the fact of I know I'm still addicted. Or I don't know I'm still addicted, but
the desire's still there.
The desire's still there.
So
I wake up, like, I want a coffee. So I'm going to wait until that desire's gone, or someone like puts a coffee in front of me and I'm like, I'll have a coffee.
It has to be done.
So and it's so nice just not being dependent upon something every day. Like,
that is a fear. Like, I had that with something the other day when I was doing the no refined carbs. It was bread, because I'll eat a lot of bread, like if I'm running, like post or pre or post, because like pre, it's just such an easy thing to eat and it doesn't mess with my stomach. So like I'll have 2 bits of like toast with PB or something and a banana. But like I didn't have bread, and I was like, damn, I really feel like bread, like big time. And like that dependency like is really frightening.
It's scary. It's super scary to be dependent upon anything that, I don't know, because isn't a need, I guess.
Because it's almost like, my way of putting it was like, it's not the fear of me being dependent on, it's the fear of like, when it's not there, what would I be like? Like I want to be dependent on as little things as possible.
Yeah, well, like whatever overcomes a man, to that he's enslaved. And I don't want to be enslaved to anything that's going to be bad for me. Things like coffee. You can't always access coffee. I don't want to ever have to. And I say this now, but I've had multiple times in my life where I haven't had access to it and I've really wanted it, and it severely impacted my mood. Like the things I'm happy to be dependent on are the things I need in life, like water, food, shelter, relationships. happy because I need those. But anything that I want in life, like coffee and bread, I don't want to be dependent on. But yeah, the food is amazing. A lot of vegetables, a lot of rice, a lot of noodles.
Veggies covered in sugar.
Yeah, not. There's actually no sugar on the veg and stuff.
Really?
There would be
Like
in the
the
sauces.
sauce. Do they put sauce on it? I'm sure there's
they
so much
put
sugar in the sauce.
like a lot of soy sauces.
Yeah, like
and,
palm sugars and stuff like that.
Yeah. But one thing we did do, which I'm super grateful for. So I was like quite hesitant to eat from street food carts. I can't remember what I said on the pre-pod, but the reason I was hesitant was I was only there for 2 weeks. So if I got sick, like that very well could have been the whole trip just written off because I'm sick. So I didn't gamble that much. Like I ate pretty much most foods, but I didn't like see a cart on the side of the street and go, oh, I'll eat from that. I didn't eat from that cart that was selling chicken feet just out of, caution. But we met these 2 American guys on our second night there, and they went and did like a street food tour in Ho Chi Minh. And then they came back, said it was so amazing. And Pat and I were like, man, we'll do that at the end of our trip on our last night when we're in Ho Chi Minh. So worked our way up north, came back south, and we did the tour. I'm so grateful we did that because there were so many foods that I had never heard of, never tried, and they were all so amazing. I think we went to 6 different places, and I think we had 8 different meals. It's like it was like a 3-hour walking tour.
Standard
called Street Food Man tours. So if anyone's in Vietnam or ever goes there, definitely do that tour.
How much do you pay?
That's the only thing. That was like the most expensive kind of splurge that we did. I think it was like 50 or 60. It was like 60 Australian dollars.
Damn.
Which is pretty pricey.
Yeah.
But when you think about what you get, it's like 3 hours of guided walking, knowledge about like food and history, and then also you get 8 meals.
Oh, so the 8 meals are under the $60.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought the service was $60, like
no.
taking you around and then you buy food.
Yeah, no.
Damn.
Like it's all paid for.
Oh, that's not bad.
And like you're very full by the end of it. So had like banh mi's. I'm gonna forget all of the names of the dishes, but I have photos on my phone. There's like, I would say the highlight was this crab shell. It was like crab in this sauce that honestly tasted like just buttery caramel popcorn. Like it was just an oil.
And it was crab.
And it was crab in the oil. And then there was like this really soft bread. It wasn't brioche, but it kind of had that like sweet sort of flavor to it. And you just like pick the crab out, put it in the bread, eat that.
Oh.
And it was so good.
I've never had crab lobster, any of it. I've never had it.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so that was really good. And the other thing that was great was the dessert. It was like an avocado and coconut ice cream.
Ooh.
Drinky sort of thing. It was
naughty.
Like, it was naughty. But that was really delicious. And just, you do get, it's funny. Like sometimes you get sick of waking up and having to eat like fried rice with vegetables. I'm like, I just want like a fruit bowl or some yogurt or something. But again, you're in a completely new country, just adapt to what is there.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, the food was so good.
Yeah, I've just thought, you know how you were saying like you had like the diarrhea and stuff when you came back? That's from your freaking street food tour because you did it right at the end.
Yeah, no, but
you don't think it's from that?
I don't think it was.
Maybe it's from the splurge at the airport that you and Pat had.
Yeah, maybe. That was good.
Yeah. What was that? That was like $60 and you just all you can eat, all you can drink.
Justification for this was
straight into the justification.
Yeah. The way so basically we went into the business lounge at Ho Chi Minh like airport. Our flight was at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night Australian time, and we got home at like 6 a.m. Australian time. So we're on the plane all night. Then we're at the airport and we had like, it was like 2 hours to kill in the airport. And we're looking at food options, and there was like Burger King. You could get like a burger for like $20, like a burger meal for $20. And then that was pretty much it. There was a couple of other places, but nothing that great. And then we went to the business lounge and it was like $60 Australian entry. And it gives you like free drinks, free buffet food. And we were like, can we look at the food first before we go? And they're like, yeah, sure. So we looked around.
Good feed.
So
what was on the menu?
There was like endless amounts of like toast. There was like a pork stir fry with veg.
Dirty.
A lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
I can't even remember, honestly. There was so much food. and that was really, really nice. So we did that. And then, yeah,
So you spent 3 times the amount you justified you weren't going to spend. So you said it was $20.
Yeah, because we were like, we can spend $20 and sit here and that'll be shit.
And then be hungry when you get back.
But also just like, sitting in this like super overpopulated like airport lounge.
It's almost like the $60 wasn't overpriced because what you were getting was worth more than $60, but the $20 was overpriced. So the justification was you didn't want to spend money on something that was overpriced.
Exactly. And I'm like,
that's fair.
I don't like $40 is nothing to me. Like that, the gap between 20 and 60. Like, $40 is nothing.
Yeah,
so,
fair. And you guys didn't spend a whole lot when you were over in Vietnam anyway.
Yeah, no. So the whole trip we said was going to be sub 2K, ended up being 2.5 because of the visa situation, which, so it was funny. Pat, we actually made a clip before in the pre-pod where I was talking about being prepared versus having a plan. And
yeah, we did. I forget that. Yeah.
And little did we know that when we get to the airport, Sydney airport, to fly to Vietnam, we go to like get our boarding pass, and then the lady, still remember her name, Sharon.
Standard. It has to be Sharon, Cheryl, something like that.
Dude, oh, she was so rude.
No heat on like any Sharon or Cheryl out there, but like, come on.
She was just like visas, and we're like, oh, it's visa on arrival, no. And then she's like, no, like not since I last checked. And Luke's
okay.
Luke's
Firstly.
like, oh, like I'm pretty sure it is. Like we all did our own research, by the way, 3 people. Luke's like, when I went there in 2019 with my family, it was. And then she called like her superior, and he's like, nope. And then we're just like, great, we don't have a visa and we can't get one on arrival. This is good. And then we ended up having to go to like Flight Center and get like a fast track visa for $500.
A pop.
$500 a pop. So, which that was 25% of what we expected to spend. So
Dude, you were still in Sydney.
That's
you weren't even in Vietnam.
The amount of money. Instantly, I was chill with that. Luke straight away was like,
nah,
I'll wait and get on another flight. And Pat was like kind of on the fence. But I'm like, dude, what is $500 for like a 2-week trip?
Yeah.
And that can be a bad mentality to have. I get it. But also, I'm not going to let $500 rule me.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is my fault. I should have been more prepared. I shouldn't have settled thinking that I could have got a visa on arrival, even though I read it on the internet. So bought the ticket, bought the visa, went back, and then give Sharon our visas. She's like, yeah, COVID international certificate. We give her those. Luke has one from Croatia because that's where he got vaccinated.
Which is still a COVID international certificate, yeah.
And she's like, what's this? And he's like, it's my international certificate from Croatia.
Which you just asked for.
Yeah. She's like that doesn't fly here, or she said something along those lines. Like, that doesn't work. I need a valid one, Australian one or something. He's like, I've traveled to like however many countries he's been to with it. It's been fine. It's fine because I know it's fine. Just give me my boarding, like just like give me my boarding pass kind of thing. And then he was like trying to pull one up on his phone or something because she was like, this isn't going to get you far. And then before he could even give her like another one, she just gave him the boarding pass.
Sweet. So Shaz, it was all good. It was all good.
So it was
you just
fine.
been a smart ass. Yeah.
So clearly she was mad about something. But
That's
she really targeted Luke.
Ooh.
Specifically, like really ripping into Luke.
I feel like out of the 3 you though, Luke would have been the most like forward about it. Like out of the 3, so she'd be like dickhead, and then just gone on him.
So that happened.
That's gold.
And then it was just a running joke. Like anytime any of us said anything, it was like, could you grab me a coffee? Like, yeah, you got $500. So that was actually funny. Made for a good story. Yeah. So total cost was about 2.5K. Which I'm super happy with. 2 weeks in Vietnam. Pat was telling me one of his mates went to Melbourne for, I think it was 4 days or a week or something, and spent $2,500.
Oh.
And they live in Sydney, which is wild.
Yeah.
Like wild.
Melbourne's cool, but it's like, it's the same thing, but it's just an escape from that. I don't know. I like Melbourne, but it's just like $2.5K. Sorry. Yeah. That's nuts.
When I heard that, it made me happier. But yeah, cost was good. If I talk about the trip highlights though, it would be the Haijiang Loop. was for sure the highlight. Like meeting the people were awesome and like they're definitely up there. But doing the 4-day motorbike ride around Haijiang was by far the coolest part. It was like myself, Pat, Luke, Ollie and Owen, and Joseph, the German guy.
Joseph.
Yeah. So it was so much fun. We just set off and rode through some of the most beautiful country land I've ever seen, the most magnificent mountains.
Dude, some of the photos you showed me are actually like out of this world. It's so cool. Like I love the windy roads. It's just so different to what we're used to.
Oh, honestly. And you get everything from like really nice, freshly tarred roads to just like rock and dirt roads with like massive mountain cliff drop-offs. And
you guys were doing these on bikes?
On motorbikes. So it was just a true adventure in that sense. We just saw so many cool things.
And then Pat obviously hadn't ridden a bike before.
Oh yeah, so Pat really hadn't ridden. I think he rode a little bit when he was in Greece. And we were in Phong Nha in the national park, hired some scooters for the day for $6 Australian, which is like, it's wild how cheap living is over there. And we're on this dirt road and we'd ridden the day prior. So he had gotten a lot of confidence. We rode like for 5 or 6 hours. So super confident, didn't have any near misses there. And then I was riding, had Julie on the back of my bike, and we're just like looking at the beautiful mountains. And then we like came to a stop, and Pat's behind me. We're on a dirt like fire trail road. It's a bit bumpy, a bit sandy. Pat's like just taking in the views, looks up, like last second sees me stopped in front of him, just like locks up the rear brake on the bike and just falls off. And I just hear this like bang, and I look behind me. It's hard not to laugh.
Why are you trying to censor that? Of course, it's hilarious.
Are you okay? Like, oh my goodness. He was okay. He had like a big graze down his elbow, his ankle, I think his knee and thigh were a bit beat up as well. It wasn't too crazy.
The graze on his arm was like massive.
Yeah, it was pretty big actually. And I just gave him a pep talk like, man, are you okay? Like, what happened, went through it. I'm like, all right, just be really sensitive on the brakes. Also, now you're aware, like you've just crashed. There's no way you're crashing again.
Because obviously you've learnt your lesson.
You're so focused. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Dude,
right?
There's this line that my dad's best friend always says that blacks make great slaves but terrible masters, and like that reigns true for sure. So then a kilometer down the road, we're riding, hit like this couple of little bumps. And then I go over them with Julie, and then I just hear like ding ding, and I'm like, you're kidding. I like look back, Pat's come off again, and his instant reaction is like, dude, like something, these brakes on the bike.
Oh no, it's the bike. It's the bike.
Blames the bike, and it was not the bike for anyone listening. Pat just wasn't experienced riding. Oil was leaking out of the sump, like he'd cracked the sump of the bike, and there was oil. Like he's broken the bike.
Yeah.
And then we called the hostel, told them, they came, picked it up, just dropped off a new bike for us. And
what charge?
Yeah, so we're like, oh, he's going to get charged like when we get back and pay the hostel bill.
Nothing.
Wow. Didn't charge us a cent, which is wild. I don't know if...
That's not even nice. That's just weird.
Yeah, I don't know if... Because those bikes were really rough and like really, really rough. So I don't know if it's quite common and they just break all the time. So they just assume it's the bike's fault. But yeah, Pat got away with that, which is very lucky. So yeah, we're doing this 4-day like motorbike ride, and Pat was just like taking it very slow, being very cautious. I think he at times felt a bit guilty because he felt like he was holding us up, which if you look at it, yes, he was going slow and there were points where we'd wait so he could catch up, but we didn't need to be anywhere else.
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
It's also, you got to stop and look.
Exactly. That's what it was. Like I got to stop, look, take more photos, see more things, learn more. So I was super happy. I know all the guys were super happy as well. And yeah, the ride was just so much fun. Like it felt like a mini adventure within the adventure almost.
That's sick.
Like we'd go
like
out,
a chapter.
Ride all day, pull up to the town, like go get dinner, like chill out, go to bed, wake up, have a nice breakfast, chill out, set off about like 9-10 o'clock and
that's so cool.
Ride all day. So yeah, and the mountain ranges are just wild throughout the Haijiang region. We also went to like the border of China. So Vietnam and China, like obviously border, and there's a very like on this road, where the road goes, you're literally 20-30 meters away from the border of China. And then there's a tower called Lung Chu. It's like Luncu. And you go up this tower, it's like 50, 60 meters high, and you just have like 360-degree mountain views, which is so beautiful. And that's in the north. Like you can see the mountains in China and stuff from there. So yeah, I saw some really, really cool places, which I'm super grateful for.
That's sick.
And because I love motorbike riding as well, I found that I was having to combat between just like really enjoying riding, pinning it, like taking corners and just loving like being on a racetrack, and then combating the like want and desire to slow down and just look at the mountain view. So
not a bad problem to have, dude.
not a bad problem.
It's
I
win
found,
and win.
I found peace in just alternating.
Yeah.
I'd find a nice stretch of road where I just wanted to pin it, have music on and blah, blah. And then I found peace just going really slow and
Sick.
looking at the view. So
Yeah. I was going to ask you what he highlights, but from what I can tell, that's like definitely...
yeah, the Haizheng for sure.
Yeah.
It was cool to see the history in the War Museum and the war tunnels in Ho Chi Minh. Quite confronting, the War Museum. Oh my goodness. Like the War Museum's here, War Memorial is very, very minor. Like in terms of what you see, like you get a lot of history, but you're not seeing like the reality of it. I think Vietnam...
Well, in terms of recent war history, we haven't had anything take place here in terms of recent war history. So for them, it's fucking it's they've had recent war history. Like
no,
on
100%. And they do a great job at putting you in that environment.
That's
like
good.
the photos you're seeing are just so confronting. Like the deformities from Agent Orange, just gory photos of bodies like torn in half, reading stories of people and what they went through. It's really, really good to see.
Wow.
So yeah, that was cool. Like it was a great experience, that.
Great.
And then Hoi An's just a beautiful place, the night markets and lanterns, just like a great vibe. Like you just want to walk around there and chill there.
Well, I guess like you've talked about your experiences, the people you saw, the fun you had there, but it's like you've obviously had such a great trip. If you are to go back there, what would you do differently, do you think?
I would get a visa for starters, so I'm not paying $500 for one. I would go back solo.
Yep.
Probably.
I thought you'd say that.
I'd either go back solo or I would take some other friends, and because like I want to share these experiences because I love them and I know my friends will love them. So I want to take them and do the Haizheng loop with them. But what I would do differently, I would 100% spend time in that country solo. I would want to say I'd go for longer. 2 weeks was, like, it was good. I'm grateful for it. I can't complain. I had 2 weeks to travel the country, but it would be nice to just go a bit slower and see a couple more places. Like we had to skip a few places just because of time, and like the things that we wanted to do, which again, there was no stress on it because we had no plan.
Sometimes that's actually fun though, when you get to do that, because you have to decide, and then like your schedule is also really full, so that's also fun. There is two sides. Again, it's one of those win-win things.
Exactly.
You're winning either way, but if you were to do it again, it'd be cool to take the time,
and
right?
there's always the reality of like, you can never do everything you want to do in life. So just accept that and don't try to do it all. But yeah, I find everything I've ever done, I've always said I would go back and do it slower.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to do it initially to then want to do it slower, or would you want to get better at just doing things slower? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think no matter what I do, I'll always want to do it slower because there's always more to see. There's always more to experience.
So it's almost like you have to experience it a certain way, and then you feel like you want to do it slower.
100%. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd get a visa, I'd do it slower, I'd do it solo for parts. I'd also try and share it with some different friends. And I'd also just be more inclined to chat with locals and like try to explore a bit more. I think like, again, there was that hostel culture, and it's super interesting talking to people from around the world, travelers, hearing their story, hearing what their country's like. Like, don't get me wrong, that's great, but like there were times maybe where I was just comfortable in the hostel talking with someone I'd never met, whereas I could have just gone and walked down the street and
It's like home base.
to see what comes from that.
Yeah.
So maybe I would do that a bit differently, like pick and choose when I stay in a hostel and who I talk to versus when I just wander the streets and see where it takes me.
Sick.
Which I think would, as I say this, like that would come with solo travel more so. I'd be more inclined to just see what happens. Whereas when I'm with a friend, then like I feel obligated to do what they want to do. Or
it's different. Hey.
Yeah. So
It's a sacrifice you sort of make when you do it with a friend.
So I'll do those things differently.
Sick. Was there anything else you want to touch on in terms of post?
I think, I don't know, just any preconceived notions you have about any country you've never been to, just like throw them out the window.
That seems pretty obvious to me. Like, you've never been there before, so how would you know?
Exactly.
But yes, we have we probably out of any time in history have an idea of what like
Photos,
different countries are like.
People have
Video.
gone, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, talk to others and get their input, but don't be anchored to it. Like, for example, one of Pat's mates had gone and he told us, which I'm grateful for, he told us about this sweet bread to get. I think it was called King Roti, and it was in Hanoi, and he was like it was one of the things where it's like, you're going to Vietnam, do this.
Yeah, like you have to do this.
So we got it, and I really didn't think anything of it. I was like, it's like sweet bread, it's okay. But again, it was like I was anchored to that. I'm expecting it to be amazing because that's what he took away from the trip. It's like, try this bread, like you have to do this thing. So yeah, just throw away all those kind of preconceived thoughts and just go in and experience it for what it is.
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of defines experience, because an experience is something that you do and it's like you're taking value from. So it's like, if he's told you that the bread's like really good, you haven't gone and done that yet. It's like he's told you that and you're taking value from it before you actually go and do it.
Exactly.
So maybe that defines in terms of more go and experience things, like actually experience them.
And like, again, maybe the bread was different because it was 3-4 years apart, whatever it is. Like, no, it was the same place, but like 3-4 years apart. So who knows? Taste like it, I'm not trying to. I don't know, but just go experience shit. That's what I would say. Just go. Anyone that's gonna go travel, just go in open-minded and just have fun, and just say yes to like a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Say yes.
Awesome, dude. Well, it's good to do a post to round it off. I'm keen to do this with more like sort of trips that we do outside, and like I'd probably say the one we would do next is when we go on the drive, and film that and then do some stuff for us afterwards. I definitely think that will be the next one we could do, sort of a pre-thing for, and not because you've been out to the middle of Australia and all the way through up to the NT, but I have not. So that will be an interesting thing. And I've never done anything like that really. So
yeah, I'm keen for you to see it as well.
Yeah.
Because we're so similar, I think our reactions will be very similar.
Yeah.
Like my first reaction, seeing the big red dirt and just endless amounts of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool. I'm excited for that. But yeah, this was a good pod.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Thanks for being the little interviewee today. We love you all, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Peace. G1C.
Bye.